my name is Everly Mitchell, and I was 30 years old when I finally understood that some people would never see me. I was an interior designer, successful by anyone's standards, but success didn't fix the hole that had been there since I was a kid. I had parents and a younger sister, Madison. From the time I could remember, Madison was the favorite. It wasn't subtle. When I was 7 and Madison was 5, I won second place in the school art contest. I brought home the ribbon, excited to show Mom and Dad. Madison had learned to tie her shoes that same day. Guess which one got celebrated at dinner? Mom made Madison's favorite dessert, and Dad took pictures of her feet in those newly tied shoes. My ribbon went into a drawer somewhere. When I was 10, I made the honor roll. Madison got a participation trophy from soccer. She couldn't even kick the ball straight, but Dad hung that trophy on the mantle like it was an Olympic medal. My report card went on the fridge for maybe 2 days before it disappeared under Madison's art projects. Every birthday, every Christmas, it was the same pattern. Madison got the bigger gifts, the better attention, the spotlight. If I complained, I was being selfish. If I stayed quiet, I was forgotten. By the time I was 12, I had stopped trying to compete. I found refuge in the old garage behind our house. It smelled like cedar and engine oil, and nobody bothered me there. I would sit on the concrete floor and sand old boards until my hands hurt and my shoulders ached. It was the only place that felt like mine. One summer, I decided to build something. A table. I had no real plan, just some scrap wood and basic tools I found in the garage. The legs came out uneven, the edges were rough, but when I finished and stepped back, that table was standing. It was the first thing in my life that no one could take credit for, not Mom, not Dad, not Madison, just me. That table followed me everywhere after that. When I went to college on a scholarship, I took it with me. Mom asked why I wanted that beat-up old thing when they could buy me a real desk. I didn't bother explaining. I just loaded it into my car and drove it 3 hours to campus. In the dorm, I hauled that table up to the 3rd floor by myself. My roommate thought I was crazy, but I restored it, sanded it down again, refinished the top. It became my desk, then my drawing surface, then the first prototype space for every design I ever made. College was where I learned I was good at something, really good. Interior design made sense to me in a way nothing else ever had. I could see spaces the way they should be, not the way they were. I could fix things, make them better, make them right. After graduation, I started my own business. It was slow at first, just small projects here and there, but I worked harder than anyone else. I took jobs other designers turned down. I stayed up late perfecting every detail, and eventually, people noticed. By the time I was 30, I had built something real. A successful design firm with clients who actually wanted to work with me. I had enough money to do something I had been dreaming about for years. I bought land in the Hamptons, right on the Atlantic Ocean, and I designed a villa. Building that house took 2 years. I was there almost every day, watching it come together, making adjustments, making sure everything was exactly right. That old table from the garage sat in the construction trailer the whole time, covered in blueprints and coffee cups. A few months before the house was finished, an HGTV crew reached out. They wanted to rent the villa for a TV show, film it as a completed project. I agreed. They scheduled the final shoot for late summer. I planned a housewarming party. Sent the date to my parents and Madison. Told them about the house, about the party, about everything I had built. I wanted them to see it. Maybe part of me still wanted them to be proud. Thursday afternoon, 2 days before the party, I was in the villa checking last-minute details when my phone buzzed. Message from Mom. We're not coming to your housewarming party, your sister is also moving into a rented apartment. I read it 3 times, no apologies, no explanations, just that flat statement. Madison was moving into a rental apartment and they had to help her, so they couldn't come to my housewarming. I typed back 2 words, it's okay. Then I put down my phone and looked at the dining table I had designed. 16 chairs, all the same, arranged at equal distances. I had built this table specifically for that party, for the people I thought would come and sit here. I wasn't angry, that was the strange part. I felt like I had just woken up from something. Like I had been waiting my whole life for them to show up and finally realized they never would. I turned off my phone and put it in a drawer, then I sat down with my notebook and started making a different list. Not the people who were supposed to come. The people who had been forgotten. In every extended family, there are people who get left out. Pushed to the side, ignored. I started writing their names down. The list filled up faster than I expected. Jacob, my cousin. Smart guy, funny, always kind to me at family events, but he hadn't been invited to the last reunion because he was going through a divorce and Mom said it would be awkward. Aunt Barbara, she was my dad's sister, but she was poor. Really poor. At Thanksgiving, she ate in the kitchen because the family said there wasn't enough room at the table. There was always enough room for Madison's friends though. Grandma on my mom's side. They told her she talked too much at dinner, so she started staying home. Jennifer, another cousin. She had kids and worked 2 jobs and nobody ever asked how she was doing. By the time I finished the list, I had 12 names, 12 people who deserved a seat at a table where they mattered. The next morning, I opened my laptop and wrote a message. Short and simple, dinner this Saturday at my place in the Hamptons. Come hungry. I sent it with my address to everyone on that list. Then I started organizing. I called a catering company I had worked with before, the good one that didn't cut corners. I ordered everything, appetizers, main courses, desserts, nothing cheap, nothing that would make anyone feel like a second-class guest. Next, I ordered dishes, real dishes, not disposable plates. I wanted everything identical, same plates, same glasses, same silverware, no mismatched sets, no chipped edges, nobody was going to feel like an outcast at my table. I spent the afternoon writing cards by hand, one for each place setting, simple message on each one, you belong here. I used good cardstock, wrote carefully in black ink. 16 cards total, one for each chair. Friday evening came fast. I was at the villa checking everything when the HGTV crew showed up. They were earlier than planned, but I had agreed to let them film months ago. The producer, a woman named Sarah, explained they wanted to get the last shots of the finished space before it got lived in. No problem, I said. Do what you need to do. They set up cameras and lights while I kept working. I tightened loose screws on chairs, straightened cushions, wiped dust off the stone countertop in the kitchen. They filmed me working, asked questions about the design, about why I built the house this way. I wanted to create a space where everyone had a seat at the same table, I said, not really thinking about it. Just telling the truth. Sarah asked me to talk more about that. I told her about the table, about equal distances, about no head seat. She nodded like she understood something I hadn't said out loud. They filmed until midnight. When they finally packed up, Sarah thanked me and said the episode would air next week. I barely registered it. I was thinking about the next day, about the people coming, about whether I had done enough. Saturday evening arrived. I lit candles as the sun started setting, placed them along the table and on the side tables throughout the house, then I stood by the window and waited. The first car pulled up around 6. Through the glass, I saw silhouettes getting out. Jennifer's kids ran toward the door, their voices high and excited. Jennifer followed, looking nervous, holding a bag. Then Aunt Barbara's car. She got out slowly, holding a pie wrapped in a towel. She had baked something. I felt my throat tighten. More cars. Jacob arrived with his teenage daughter. Grandma came in a modest dress, looking around like she wasn't sure she was in the right place. 2 more cousins I hadn't seen in years. An uncle who always sat alone at family gatherings. When the last guest arrived, I closed the door behind him and took a breath. Everyone was here, everyone I had invited had actually come, they were fascinated by the house. I could see it on their faces. Aunt Barbara touched the wall like she couldn't believe it was real. Jacob walked to the window and stared at the ocean. Jennifer's kids ran from room to room, their footsteps echoing on the polished floors. They followed me through each room. I showed them the kitchen with its marble island, the living room with floor-to-ceiling windows, the bedrooms upstairs with their ocean views. Grandma kept saying it was beautiful, just beautiful. Aunt Barbara had tears in her eyes. When we finished the tour, I led them to the dining room. They found their seats, read the cards I had left. Some of them smiled, some looked like they might cry. We sat down together. The food came out, dish after dish. Nobody had to serve themselves from the kitchen, nobody ate alone. Everyone sat at the same table, in the same kind of chair, with the same plates. There were no loud toasts, no obligatory speeches. No one told Grandma to talk more quietly when she started telling stories. No one commented on Aunt Barbara's clothes, or Jacob's divorce, or Jennifer's job. We just ate, and talked, and laughed. At one point, Jennifer leaned over to me. "I never get to sit at the main table," she said quietly. "Thank you for this." "There is no main table here," I told her, "that's the point." The evening stretched on, kids played in the living room, while adults lingered over dessert. Grandma told a long story about her childhood that would have been shut down at any other family gathering. Here, people listened, actually listened. When everyone finally left, after 9, I stood alone in the dining room. Candles burned low, dishes needed clearing. But the house felt alive in a way it hadn't before, like it had found its purpose. The HGTV episode aired the following week. I hadn't planned to watch it. I didn't even remember it was happening until that evening when cars started pulling into my driveway again. Jennifer, Jacob, Aunt Barbara, even Grandma. They showed up with snacks and drinks, saying they wanted to watch it together. We set up a projector on the terrace, aimed it at a white sheet stretched between two poles. The show started. Shots of the villa, aerial views of the ocean, close-ups of the design details. The narrator's voice came through the speakers, smooth and professional. When designer Everly Mitchell built her villa on the ocean, she wanted to create a space where everyone had a seat at the same table. Then my own voice, recorded months ago during filming. I had forgotten saying it. Justice is not a decoration, it's a structure. The episode showed the house, showed the table, showed everything I had built. When the credits rolled, everyone on the terrace started clapping. Grandma was smiling. Aunt Barbara looked proud. That was when my phone started vibrating. Once, then again, then it didn't stop. The screen kept lighting up in my lap. Mom, Dad. Madison. Over and over, I let it ring. Didn't touch it. Just watched the missed calls pile up. Jennifer noticed. She leaned over and asked quietly, "Are you going to answer that?" "No," I said. "Not now." By morning, I had 37 missed calls, then the messages started coming through. "We saw the show, why didn't you tell us? Everyone is talking about it." Then, "You've embarrassed us." And finally, "Call me back." I didn't call back. Instead, I opened my notebook and found the list I had made. The last item read, "Dinner party." I drew a line through it and wrote next to it, "Done." The next day, around noon, Grandma showed up at my door. She didn't call first, just knocked, and waited. When I opened the door, she had that look on her face, the one that meant she had something to say. "Can I come in?" I made tea. We sat in the living room with the ocean stretching out in front of us through the windows. Grandma held her cup carefully, like she was gathering her thoughts. "Your parents are telling everyone you didn't invite them," she said finally. "They're making it sound like you excluded them on purpose." I laughed. Not a bitter laugh, just an honest one. "I did invite them, they chose not to come." "I know that," Grandma said. "And everyone who matters knows that too, but they're upset about the show. About how it looked. How it looked." I set down my cup. "It looked exactly how it was. They weren't there because they chose Madison over me." "Again." Grandma nodded. "I just wanted to warn you. They're working themselves up about this." "I'm not going to defend myself," I said. "Everyone who's important to me knows the truth, that's enough." Grandma smiled and patted my hand. "Good, that's what I wanted to hear." My phone rang. "Mom." I stared at it for a minute, then answered. "Put it on speaker." Everly. Mom's voice came through, falsely soft. We watched the episode, there's been a huge misunderstanding. I didn't say anything, just waited. The show made it look like we excluded you, but that's not true at all. Madison was moving that weekend. We couldn't not help her. You understand that, don't you? I saved your message, I said calmly. The one where you said you weren't coming, I can show it to anyone who's interested. The softness in her voice vanished immediately. You're exaggerating again, we've always supported you. We just didn't think you'd want to make a show out of your housewarming, you've always been so private. Before I could respond, Grandma's voice came through. Stop it, Linda. Just stop. Silence on the other end. Then Mom's voice, tight. Mother? I've been watching you do this since Everly was a child, Grandma said. Always turning away from her, always choosing Madison. Every Christmas, every birthday, you built the whole house around Madison's comfort. You know it, and I know it. That's not true. Mom's voice shook. It is true, Grandma said quietly, and now the whole town has seen it. The call ended, Mom hung up without another word. Grandma looked at me over her teacup and said I had done everything right. A few days passed. I thought maybe that was the end of it. Then one morning I heard a car in the driveway. Through the window, I saw Mom's SUV. All three of them got out. Mom, Dad, Madison. They walked up to the house slowly, looking around at everything, the landscaping, the windows, the ocean view. Madison said something, loud enough that I heard it through the closed door. I've always dreamed of a house like this. I opened the door. All three of them turned to look at me. What do you need? I asked. Mom smiled. That fake smile she used when she wanted something. We need to talk, honey, explain everything, work this out. Dad stepped forward. You should have another housewarming party. Just for us. Then post pictures on social media showing we've reconciled, it would help restore our reputation. I actually laughed. You want me to throw you a party, after you refused to come to mine because you had to help Madison move into a rental? You're being dramatic, Madison said. She looked past me into the house, craning her neck to see more. I was actually thinking I could move in here for a while. You have all this space, it would help us reconnect as a family. I pulled out my phone, opened it to the keypad. If you're not off my property in the next minute, I'm calling the police. You wouldn't dare, Dad said. I started dialing 9. This is insane. Madison's voice went high and sharp. You're actually going to call the cops on your own family? 1. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. Let's go, she's being unreasonable. They walked back to the car, but slowly. Dad kept turning around to glare at me. Madison muttered something under her breath. Mom's face was tight with anger. When they reached the car, Dad yelled back. You're going to regret this, you can't just cut us off. Watch me, I said, and closed the door. I watched through the window as they drove away. Madison was gesturing wildly in the back seat. Mom sat rigid in the passenger seat. Dad's jaw was clenched as he drove. After they left, I called Jennifer, told her what happened. She laughed so hard she almost dropped the phone. They wanted you to throw them a party, she said. After everything? And Madison wanted to move in. Of course she did, that house is incredible. Jennifer paused. Are you okay though? Really okay? Yeah, I said, I really am. And I was. For the first time in my life, I had drawn a line and meant it. They were on one side, and I was on the other, and I was completely fine with that. A few months went by. I didn't hear from my parents, or Madison, didn't reach out either. The silence was peaceful. I stayed in touch with everyone who came to the dinner party. Jacob and I had lunch once a month. Aunt Barbara called every week to chat. Jennifer brought her kids over to swim in the ocean. Grandma visited whenever she wanted, sometimes staying for days. We had more gatherings. Not formal parties, just dinners and barbecues and casual get-togethers. The villa became a place where people felt welcome, where nobody had to worry about being judged or pushed aside. My design business kept growing. The HGTV episode brought in new clients, bigger projects. I hired 2 assistants and started working on a commercial building downtown. That old table from the garage, the one with uneven legs, still sat in my home office. I used it every day. It reminded me of where I came from and what I had built. I was 30 years old, successful, and finally surrounded by people who actually wanted to be there. My real family. The ones I had chosen. Life settled into a rhythm that actually felt good. I woke up in the villa every morning to the sound of waves. Worked on design projects that challenged me, spent evenings with people who genuinely cared about me. It was simple and it was real. The dinner gatherings became a regular thing, once a month, sometimes more. I never planned them too formally, just sent out a message asking who wanted to come over. The answer was usually everyone. Jacob brought his daughter every time. She was 15 and wanted to be an architect. We spent hours talking about design and structure while she sketched ideas in a notebook. She reminded me of myself at that age, hungry to create something that mattered. Aunt Barbara started bringing more than just pie. She made full dishes now, experimenting with recipes she found online. She told me once that nobody had ever wanted her cooking at family events before. At my table, she was always welcome to bring whatever she wanted. Jennifer's kids treated the villa like a second home. They knew where the beach towels were kept, which bathroom was theirs, how to work the outdoor shower. Jennifer thanked me constantly until I finally told her to stop. This was what family was supposed to look like. Grandma came over at least twice a week. Sometimes she stayed overnight in one of the guest rooms. We would sit on the terrace in the evenings and watch the sunset while she told stories about her life, stories nobody had ever bothered to listen to before. My design business exploded after the HGTV episode. I got calls from all over the state, people wanting me to design their homes, their offices, their commercial spaces. I hired 2 assistants to help manage the workload. We took over a small office space in town, but I still did most of my actual designing at home, at that old garage table. One evening, about 8 months after the episode aired, I was working late when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Everly? A voice I hadn't heard in months. Madison. What do you want? I just wanted to talk. See how you're doing. I didn't say anything, waited. Look, I know things got out of hand, with the party and everything, but we're family, we should be able to move past this. You wanted to move into my house, I said flatly. After Mom and Dad refused to come to my housewarming because you were moving into a rental, do you not see how that looks? I was just upset that day, I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. Silence on her end. Then quieter, Mom and Dad miss you. No, they don't, they miss the idea of controlling me, there's a difference. That's not fair. Isn't it? I stood up, walked to the window. The ocean was dark, waves barely visible in the moonlight. Madison, you've been the favorite our whole lives, every single thing you did got celebrated. Every single thing I did got ignored unless it somehow reflected well on you or them. And now that I've built something they can't take credit for, they want back in. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And you know it. She was quiet for a long time. So that's it? You're just done with us? I'm done with being treated like I don't matter. If you can't understand why, that's your problem, not mine. I hung up before she could respond. Blocked the number immediately. 2 weeks later, a letter came in the mail. Handwritten envelope, Madison's writing. I almost threw it away without opening it, but curiosity won. Inside was 3 pages of apologies and excuses. She was sorry, she understood now, she wanted to make things right. Mom and Dad were struggling with their reputation in town, people had stopped inviting them to things, and it was all so hard on everyone. I read it once, then I fed it into the paper shredder in my office, watched it turn into thin strips of paper that meant nothing. The villa became exactly what I had wanted it to be, a place where people belonged, where the forgotten ones had a seat, where nobody was more important than anyone else. I hosted Thanksgiving that year. 23 people showed up. Jacob, Jennifer and her family, Aunt Barbara, Grandma, cousins I had reconnected with, even some friends from the design world who had become part of this chosen family. We pushed tables together to make room for everyone. The kids ate with the adults, nobody was separated or sent to eat in another room. Grandma said grace. She thanked God for second chances and for people who built tables big enough for everyone. Aunt Barbara cried a little. Jacob raised his glass and said this was what family was supposed to feel like. I looked around that table at all those faces, people who showed up, people who cared, people who had been pushed aside by others but found a place here. My phone buzzed during dessert. I glanced at it, Mom. I deleted the notification without opening it and put the phone back in my pocket. That night, after everyone left and the house was quiet, I walked through the rooms turning off lights. The dining room still had dishes on the table, evidence of the celebration. The living room had scattered toys from Jennifer's kids. The terrace had empty wine glasses and dessert plates. It looked lived in, it looked loved, it looked like home. I stood at my office window and looked at the old table from the garage. Uneven legs, rough edges, still standing after all these years. I had built that when I was 12 years old, trying to create something that was mine. Now I had built this whole life, the same way. Piece by piece, on my own terms. My phone buzzed again, another message from someone in my old family probably. I didn't even check. Just turned it off completely and left it on the table. Outside, the ocean crashed against the shore in steady rhythm. Inside, everything was exactly where it should be. I was 30 years old. I had built a successful business, a beautiful home, and a family that actually showed up. Not the family I was born into, but the one I had chosen. The one that chose me back. And I had never been happier in my entire life. Some people might think I should forgive them, give them another chance, let them back in. But I had learned something important. You don't owe people access to your life just because you share DNA. Family is about showing up, about caring, about making people feel like they matter. My real family was here. And that was more than enough.